This brief tutorial is going to show you one method for using Google Docs to help take notes and organize your research for a research paper. So once you are in your Google Drive and you've created a new document, first thing you always want to do with any document is go ahead and name it. So I'm going to click on Untitled Document and I'm going to name this Concussion Research. Now I can click on the page and I'm simply going to use this like I would Microsoft Word in the past before Google Drive was as available as it is. So the great thing about using Google Drive over Microsoft Word, of course, is I can access it from anywhere, and I could also share that document with my teacher so they could see my notes. So for any basic note taking for research, you're going to need a couple elements here. First of all, you're going to want the notes themselves, and you're going to want the citation so you know where it came from. And you may even want to give it some sort of tag, like you would if you were on social media, where you say some basic keywords from that research. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to put source number 1. Okay, so here's my first source. I want that to stand out a little bit, so I'm just going to do it that way, just so it's easy for me to see. So my first source is, for example, this website. So do make sure, of course, that you've done your due diligence, that you know that the website has been updated recently, that the person that has sponsored this is a legitimate resource to use, etc. Once you've done that and you've decided, okay, this is a good resource to use, now you're ready to take notes from that resource. So when you're taking notes, you can do it a couple different ways. So if I'm going to take notes from this particular website, maybe what I found the most interesting, or something that I want to include, is that fact that about 200,000 people in the United States suffer concussions while playing sports every year. So I can highlight that, and I could simply copy and paste it under my notes. I am, of course, going to want to put quotation marks around it, and this is the quickest way to get the notes from the website to my page. Now, I would never ever do this if I was writing an essay. Copying and pasting and not giving any sort of citations would be plagiarism. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that right now. I'm going to go ahead and parenthetically document this source so that when I get ready to insert it in my essay, if I want to keep this exactly the way it is right now, then I can do so without any sort of issues. So I could quote it. So I'm looking at the website here, and I can see that there is no author. So in parenthetical documentation, usually it's the author or it's the website title or article title that you're going to be using. So since there's no author, I'm going to go ahead and use the article title, which is Sports Concussion. So I'm going to put Sports Concussion. And then normally I would put a page number. And if there's no page number, I'd then put a paragraph number. Well, for this particular website, the paragraphs are not numbered. So therefore, all I have to do for my parenthetical documentation is the title. And I put the title in quotation marks because that's how I would punctuate an article title. And now I've parenthetically documented. So should I want to lift this quote directly from my notes and put it in my essay, it's ready to go and document it. Another way that I could take notes would be to go ahead and paraphrase it. So for example, if another piece of information that I want is that despite many attempts by experts, there is no clear definition of concussion. It is uncertain whether any damage to the brain occurs from a concussion. So I want this information. So if I want this information and I want to paraphrase it, the best way to paraphrase something is to read it and then not look at it while you reword it. So I've read it. I know that it's about experts trying to define it, but we don't know if any damage actually occurs. So I'm going to say that researchers and other experts can cannot define concussion because there is no conclusive evidence that trauma to the brain occurs during a concussion. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is look at what I just paraphrased and make sure that the meaning is the same, but the words are different. So I said experts can't define. Yep, no clear definition. Uncertain whether any damage to the brain occurs. And I said trauma to the brain occurs and there is no conclusive. Oh, I should have said no. So this is why I double check, because I want to make sure that whatever the meaning that that quote had, that my paraphrase also has that exact same meaning. When you're paraphrasing, it's probably going to be the same length as what you're quoting, but it's going to be different words. You don't want the same words. Otherwise, you're actually quoting instead of paraphrasing. I can go ahead and parenthetically document this as well, because whether I'm quoting or I'm paraphrasing, I do need to have the exact same parenthetical documentation. Now I'm going to go ahead and cite the source, because what if this URL changes? What if it's not in the same location when I go back tomorrow? That's why we never use just URLs in our Works Cited page. So we're going to copy the URL and we're going to go to the citation generator we want to use. So in this case, EasyBib, we're going to paste that, click Cite It, and then it's going to bring this page up. Anything in pink is something that the program couldn't read from the web page. I do need to try to fill those in still. Now, there was no author here, so I can't fill that in, but there is a sponsor, American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. So I'm going to type that in, American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. Now it's saying this is misspelled, but when I look at the website, that is exactly how they spelled it, so I'm going to keep it that way. And then it asks for a day of publication. There is no publication date at the top here. Sometimes articles do have them, this one doesn't. But if I scroll down to the bottom of the screen, I'm going to see some copyright information. And I can see that this was published in 2016. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2016. It did not have a month or a day of the month, so I can't include that. I'm going to click Create Citation, and now I've got this citation here. I'm going to click Copy and Paste Citation, and it's going to copy it to a clipboard for me. And when I go back to my notes, I can paste that citation right there. The reason I'm taking the 2 seconds to go ahead and cite this and do my parenthetical documentation is, again, to save me the time in the long run, because when I go to write my paper, I don't need to go back to those sources now. I've got it right here. I simply add this to my Works Cited page, and then I can either add quotes or paraphrase them in my essay, and I've already got my parenthetical documentation, and I'm good to go. Now, the last thing I mentioned you might want would be a tag. That would be a key word so that it's easy for you to know what that particular note was about. So, for example, this one was about statistics. So I'm going to tag this statistics. This one was about the definition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this information and I'm going to separate it. So what I have now is note number 1 with its tag, and note number 2 with its tag. And then I have the citation. All of this is from the same source, so I only have to cite it once, because whether I use this piece of information, this one, or both, it has the same citation, which I only list once on my Works Cited page. Now, the benefit of doing it this way is that when you get ready to write your essay, you can go back to your notes page, and let's say you're writing a paragraph over the definition of concussion, because people seem to differ on what that definition is. You can simply find all the tags for definition, and now you've got all the information that would belong in that paragraph regardless of what source it was from. I can find it easily on the page as well. If I do Control F on my keyboard, I get this find feature, and if I type in definition, it will highlight that word anywhere it appears on the page. So I can scroll down, find all those pieces of information, copy and paste them into a paragraph over definition, and go ahead and wordsmith it from there using my own words, making those those definitions work together to prove my point and build that paragraph. So like I said, this is just one way you could use Google Drive to create notes. It's not the only source you could use, but it is a readily available one since you already have Google Docs as an option in your Google Drive. And since it's online and you could easily share it with your teacher so that they can see what notes you've taken and if you're progressing in the right direction.